In the novel Flags of Our Fathers, James Bradley tells the story of the 6 individuals in the famous flag-raising photograph taken on Iwo Jima. His thesis, that it took many individuals, all with their own story, to get the flag raised on Iwo Jima and win the battle, is developed mainly by his organization. Bradley starts by introducing the 6 different boys, beginning with their childhood. He establishes each as an individual by doing so. Then, he progresses into how they interact with the other Marines and form friendships after they sign up to be Marines and start training together. They work together to form the bond that all Marines have and that defines them as Marines. Later, he continues on to the Battle of Iwo Jima, telling of the horrors of the battle and how the 6 Marines came together on top of Mount Suribachi and lent a hand to help with the replacement flag. By organizing his work this way, it establishes his thesis by showing how it took so many individuals, including the 6 that raised the flag, to win the battle. The picture only captured one moment of heroism, and only 6 of the thousands of heroes on Iwo Jima during the battle. This is the raising of the replacement flag in slow motion. Bradley intended for his audience to be the average American citizen, the general public, since the story is biased towards the patriotism and heroism of the U.S. Marines. The historical context of the book is such that it is enough for someone who knows next to nothing about the Marines or the Battle of Iwo Jima, but not so much that it makes the book boring or confusing for the average reader. He briefly goes over the machines, strategies, and routines and customs of the Marines, but doesn't go into a lot of specific detail about every machine used or the everyday tasks. By making his book read like a story, Bradley illustrates that he intended for his audience to be the general public. He makes his point of the corruption of the Japanese government and attacks their government's disregard for the Isen-Gorin, the name they gave their soldiers, meaning they are only worth the amount it costs them to mail the draft letter. In comparison, he constantly brings out the loyalty and support of the Marines. He includes numerous stories from veterans on Iwo Jima who performed heroic deeds such as being extremely injured during open fire and refusing to be evacuated. When they are asked why they did it, their answer is always, "I did it for my buddies. I didn't want to let them down."
What I found in interviewing these veterans was a concept that I call everyday heroes. They win a medal and they're seen as special, but then I realized these were good boys in the 1930s opening the doors for their mothers. They were good boys on Iwo Jima helping each other. When you're helping somebody under fire, you get a medal. But they came back and they built the swimming pools and hospitals and schools that we now all enjoy in America. So they were everyday heroes. There was a consistency to their lives.
The reasoning that Bradley uses for the Marines being so loyal is the way they are treated by their fellow Marines. He goes in great detail at the beginning of his book to discuss how the highest-ranked Marines sat at the same table as the other Marines and got their food last, unique to almost all other branches of the armed forces. He talks about Mike Strang, the surgeon, and how veterans would later call him the Marine's Marine, meaning that he was one of the most caring Marines out there who was always putting others first. The veterans talked about how much the others looked up to him, and how it was people like him that made them proud to be called Marines. This is the reasoning Bradley uses for the strong bond among Marines. Bradley's theory is that the Marines are not only the best in the world, but their bond is individual stories that have come together will allow them to overcome any obstacle thrown their way. The emphasis of Flags of Our Fathers is that all of the Marines on Iwo Jima were heroes for the display of bravery and love of their country, not just the ones captured in the photograph. The photograph is only a representation of the heroism displayed. Bradley makes his point by quoting his dad, Doc Bradley, one of the flag raisers. When the author asks Doc Bradley about the flag raising, his father responds, "The heroes of Iwo Jima are the guys who didn't come back." This displays the flag raisers' view that raising the flag didn't make them heroes. It was the Marines that gave their lives and fought to their highest potential who were the heroes.
Any theories why they ain't shooting?
Maybe they're all dead. What do you think, Doc? You think they're all dead?
As far as us being the heroes of Iwo Jima, that's just not the case. The real heroes are dead on that island.
Another emphasis is that there is a story behind many photographs, and this is one example. Bradley mentions that many of the newspapers publish stories about the valiant battle that it took to get to the top of the hill, and that amidst of the fighting, the 6 flag raisers raised the flag. However, this turned out to be completely wrong, as the flag raising in the photo was only the replacement flag. Also, there is no action as the Marines climbed up Mount Suribachi. By knowing this background information, the whole meaning of the picture is changed, displaying the importance of knowing the story behind the photographs. Bradley mainly uses veteran stories of SFI to prove his thesis, that it took many individuals, all with their own story, to get the flag raised on Iwo Jima and win the battle. He covers their role on Iwo Jima and touches on if they had any experiences with one of the 6 flag raisers. By giving a primary source of evidence, it not only allows the reader to see how horrific the fighting actually was on Iwo Jima, but it gives credibility to Bradley's thesis that so many individual efforts working together were what won the battle and got the flag raised. He does this by illustrating how daunting the task was to take Iwo Jima. Another important piece of SFI is the information that Bradley gives us on the strategy of the Japanese. He talks about the Japanese commander, Kuribayashi, and how he studied the German failure to stop the Americans on D-Day. His plan was to wait until hundreds of the Marines were on the beach before he started firing, so it would be impossible to miss. Bradley talks about how almost all of the enemy was underground and how they had built a functioning and efficient set of tunnels below, with air conditioning and elevator shafts installed. How the kamikaze suicide Japanese pilots continued to destroy supplies and Marines on the boats off the shores of Iwo Jima, and how the Japanese would commit suicide before they surrendered. The detailed specifics of the well-thought plan of the Japanese help contribute to Bradley's argument by enforcing how much bravery and heroism the Marines showed in order to take down an enemy that they couldn't even see. When Bradley goes through a day-by-day narration of the events on Iwo Jima and gets to the point where the flag is raised, he talks about the insignificance of the second flag raising, the one captured by the photograph. It was the first flag raising, the one most people don't even know about, that heartened the Marines on the other side of the island. Recently, there was an article in the local newspaper about the first flag raising. It turns out that the soldier to the far left with the radio strapped to his back, Private Gene Marshall, is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He survived the battle, and when he got back to the States, he tried to make people aware of the fact that the famous photograph was only a picture of the second flag raising, something that most people were unaware of. However, he found strong opposition whenever he tried to state that fact. When a newspaper story was finally printed stating Marshall's claim, it brought widespread support and interest, and when he died in 1987, the story was recounted nationwide. Flags of Our Fathers emphasizes the same thing, that the newspapers and military and government leaders didn't want to tell the truth, they just wanted a captivating story that would sell and build support for the war. It was the famous photograph that made Americans proud and rally behind the troops, so the flag raising captured in this photograph was the one giving the dramatic but false story. As Doc Bradley is famously quoted, "It is amazing what a photograph can do."